Mick Dumke, I'm so glad you are here to do the show. What is on your mind?
Well, right now, Mark, what's on my mind is joining you. It's good to see you on camera. It's been a little bit. So, how's your New Year so far?
Good. We have. I think we saw each other like 2 years ago, maybe at the old that bar on the north side.
Yeah, I was thinking that. It's been at
Night
least two
Hawk. Is it
years.
Night Hawk?
Yeah.
Something like that. So, hey, so what is on your mind, Mick?
Oh, there's so many things, Mark. Right now, I guess what's on my mind is what's going on in Minnesota, what's going on with Trump around the world, destroying our alliances with NATO, um, you know, invading cities. I just saw a headline that they're looking to suspend federal funding for a whole bunch more of additional Democratic states and cities. So it's rough out there, Mark. That's what's on my mind. It's really rough out there.
I think it's. I'm not a historian, but if I were a historian, I would say it's always been rough for certain people or certain sections are always rough for somebody here in the United States or somewhere around the world. So it's always been rough. It's always a good. What they say, tell the two cities, good times and bad times, something like that. Some old book.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this is a country that's had, Joseph McCarthy and the Red Scare. This is a country where people used to sell postcards from attending lynchings. Um, I'm not naive about how rocky our history has been. But I do think we're in at least another phase of lawlessness and tyranny. And it's perhaps more visible and widespread than it was, at least in recent times. Not anything's new to your point, but the way that Trump is his proceeding, I think he's just like pulled off a lot of even the skimpy band-aids we had in a lot of places he's pulled off.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I shouldn't say it's hard. People should have empathy. I was like kidding about days in slavery when somebody probably told the slaves, but it sure would be nice if y'all can go free. But ain't today. We can't let y'all go free. We got to keep maintain the status quo. So when I think of some of what do you call the ICE people coming in to places like Chicago, Minneapolis, and they going in people's homes and knocking out the door and dragging people out, you can say those are not my people. Those are different Americans, and you have to try to say, even if you voted for Trump, you got to say these are human beings. Should we do this to those human beings, to human beings in general?
I would hope people are asking those questions, Mark. I'm concerned that not enough people still are asking those questions. If you don't live in one of these cities where this is happening, you can even be opposed to this in theory, but not grasp how it's actually going down. When I was visiting my family in Michigan this fall, when we were in the middle of Midway Blitz in Chicago, and I was trying to describe what people are seeing and what it feels like to be over here in the middle of all this. Um, just like 100 miles away in Southwest Michigan, where I grew up, my family's all opposed to this stuff. They're opposed to Trump's policies, the vast majority of them, and certainly the deportation campaigns, but they just didn't understand what that actually means. That you could go to the grocery store in almost any neighborhood in Chicago and walk into a tear gas incident. They didn't grasp that it was at that level. It still seems, I think, pretty abstract to a lot of people unless you're really close to it. So I don't know what it's going to take to bring this home and for people to stand up and say, this is happening to them right now. This could happen to me or mine at any point, because there are citizens, of course, being swooped up in all this as well.
Yeah, you're saying citizens. I don't have my little passport. I don't know. My wallet's over here somewhere. I can. If I knew you was going, I like bringing out my passport card, a little card, and I show people my passport card because I'm not quote unquote Latino. I'm African American. That's the term we use. When I was born, we were Negroes in the early '60s, and so I like showing my little card because just in case they think I'm Latino, just they think I'm a Venezuelan immigrant or a migrant or something, or come across the Rio Grande, I say, dude, I got my damn passport. And they're like, we don't want to hear that, and they probably knock me in the head and drag me in detention anyway, which is really quite sad. But you don't have to look like a Latino or a Venezuelan or whatever, Hispanic to have empathy. So there's election coming up. Do people understand that some Americans who did vote for the Republican Party in the past, they may have to, I don't want to use the term punish. It sounds nice. They may have to punish their beloved senator, Republican senator, or their beloved Republican House of representative, and vote them out of office just to make a point.
Well, a couple points on what you just said. I want to go back for a second about how you look or how I look. Obviously, like Hispanic people, people from Central and South America have been the top targets, but in Minneapolis, St. Paul, they're going after people from Somalia, who don't look that different from you in a lot of instances. Even here, they've gone after some immigrants from Eastern Europe who don't look that different from me. And the fact that they're attacking anyone who stands up and they perceive as obstructing their way puts all of us at risk. You could not even be involved in a protest, Mark. You could be driving someplace and be in the middle of some sort of activity from ICE or Border Patrol, and they could decide that you are obstructing their way. They can ram you. We've all seen the videos. They're breaking people's windows, grabbing them out of their cars, and they're shooting people. So anything goes right now. And I think that's the thing that is so frightening is that before there's any investigation into the shooting in Minneapolis of Renee Good, and yes, we've seen this kind of thing with local police for many, many years, the way they treated citizens similarly. But once again, we see this with this ICE officer shooting and killing a woman. And right from the very top of our government, the president, vice president basically saying, oh, it was justified without any kind of even the facade, even the illusion of an investigation. So it's obviously being greenlit from the very top. In terms of like voters deciding they've had enough of this and changing the direction of the country, frankly, I do hope that happens. Of course, I hope that happens. This is outrageous. As a journalist, I try to lead the way with the facts, Mark. But what I'm seeing here is tyranny, and we have to call that out. That is the truth of what's happening, lawlessness and tyranny. And I hope that voters will stand up and say, I've had enough of this. I don't know what it's going to take, like I said, for voters to do that. But I certainly hope that it's going to happen even before the midterms, that people continue to stand up.
Yeah, I think some people don't have not empathetic about this situation here in the States, that they never really had a real brush with the law. You know what I'm saying? Like being arrested or having a police officer being mean to them. I know people have been arrested, people had the gun drawn on them, people that had to spend nights in jail. I think most Americans really not had a real brush with the law in the court or with the police. So it's hard because when you see stuff on TV, it's a TV story. If you actually go down if you get in your car, if you can do that, take the bus and you go to the incident or to the area, you're like, wow, it's not a TV show. This crap is real.
I think you're absolutely right. And the vast majority of Americans, I'll speak as a white guy, the vast majority of white America in particular, has not had one of these encounters. Even if you've had an unpleasant encounter with the police, which I certainly have, just a traffic incident, been stopped, pulled over with someone's very rude, they're very brusque. I've never had a gun pointed at me or shoved in my face. I've had a couple of unpleasant exchanges with officers before, but for the most part, it's assumed that I am a mostly law-abiding citizen, maybe a jerk or a jagoff or a smartass, but that hasn't put my life at risk, knock on wood, to this point. So I think you're absolutely right. Most people don't realize how quickly these incidents can escalate. Now, a couple years ago, I witnessed one of these happening to someone else. I witnessed the end of. I looked into it a little bit. I didn't end up writing about it, but basically, someone was trying to flee from the police, and they turned down my street. I live on a dead end street, the end of a dead end street. It dead ends basically at the beach. I live in Rogers Park, and east of Sheridan Road, for those of you who know the city, the streets all dead end basically at the lake. So this person, I don't think, knew the neighborhood and fled down our street. And I heard a bunch of crashing sounds. I just happened to be outside. I went and looked, and I see this car crash into another parked car, and then I hear an exchange of cursing, the heightened voices, and I see 2 police officers with their guns drawn at this, turned out to be a young black man, and, I didn't know at that time what had led up to it, but I was bracing myself because I just thought that there was so much tension in the air, and I realized anything could happen. There could be a garbage truck down the street that made a loud noise that jarred somebody, or somebody slamming the door has nothing to do with this incident. There was just so much tension in the air. 2 police officers with their guns drawn, their fingers on the trigger. What would it take for them to get jumpy or just for something to go wrong and fire their guns? You realize that the line between um, something ending without violence and something ending very horribly with potentially someone killed is just very, very small. It depends on chance and human reaction, which all of us are fallible, and we're all of us are human. We're emotional. So that's the closest I've come personally, is just witnessing it, and it just made me realize once again that you want if you wanna de-escalate, you wanna avoid these kinds of situations, all these things have to happen before that moment, because if you get to a moment where guns are drawn and people have to make a split-second decision, just way too much can go wrong.
But we understand, I think everybody watched this program, any other program like this. We understand America. We understand the United States. We understand the culture. I would love to have a culture here in the United States where the I don't even want the ICE agent. Just imagine, what's the young lady's name? Renee Good in Minneapolis. I don't care. I'm the kind of person, I don't care if she ran over the ICE officer. She did not deserve to die that day in that way. And then people, "Oh, no, but if she followed the orders, she wouldn't have got shot." No, no, you don't understand. We do that because that's the culture we live with. So the long game is, how do we change the culture? Yes, we need law enforcement, but we need, was it George Bush the first? We need a gentler, kinder America. When we gonna start going for that, Mick Dumke?
Well, that's a great question, and you're right. I mean, we don't believe the law does not support the idea that you should be executed for the crime of, even if you ran over an officer's foot, or even if you have an illegal gun in your car, you should not be executed for that. We do not believe in that in America. The laws do not reflect that. So the justifications are sort of like, well, the officer feared for his life or her life, and it was a split-second decision, and that's exactly my point. You shouldn't be in a position where you have to make a split-second decision about whether to pull a trigger in a situation like that. With Renee Good, we all watched the video and heard her saying, something to the effect of, "I got you, bro," or something like that. Like, they had a conversation leading up to that, and then she tried to pull away. I don't know what she was thinking. She may have been scared. She may have just been trying to get out of danger. That's what needs to be looked into more. But the officer's holding a cell phone. He's filming this, remember? He's filming the whole encounter with a gun in his hand. So there were a series of decisions made up before that incident that I think is where we should look, because obviously things went wrong and should never been in that position where you had to make that split-second decision where you're either angry or threatened. To me, it looked like anger more than a threat, but either way, you shouldn't be in a position where someone ends up being executed because they're driving away from you. That is ridiculous. Now, your question, Mark, was not what I just answered. Your question was, where do we get to a point where some of this starts to change? I don't know. I would like to be optimistic, but as all of our leaders have taught us, people battling for civil rights, progress doesn't happen in a straight line. It certainly doesn't happen in American history. So you have moments where it seems like we are genuinely moving forward and respecting each other as human beings. And then you have moments where we seem to go backwards and all the old battles have to be fought all over again. And that's kinda what it feels like to me right now.
Mick Dumke, thank you for being my guest.
Thanks, Mark.